Is there something down there that is creating it? Is it between that's flying over the surface?
Okay, what does NASA say it is?
Well, I haven't asked them. I doubt seriously that they would give you a definitive answer.
Well, I sure as hell would expect one. I mean, it looks like the sun from the moon. It looks like a portion of the moon is so bright that the sun, and in fact, but could it be the sun?
Well, how could it be the sun if you're looking at only the bottom corner of this section of the photo? If you would have sun luminescence, it would include a terminator in which you would have light and dark, and it would be greater than in just one square corner of the picture.
Okay, I agree. It's very weird. What are the best people outside of NASA who have been willing to comment on this photograph think that it might be?
But I would say that my father got a great deal of support and a great deal of verification on the pictures that he put together in here, and there's a number of them that I believe show that there are UFO activity.
All right, we'll get to that. I'm just right now with this incredible brightness.
Mm-hmm.
What do people say it could be?
Well, they don't give you any reasons for that. So, and that, I think, is definitive of this entire subject. If you ask people if somebody takes a picture of a UFO or has a sighting or whatever, you get often for many years swamp gas, temperature inversion, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So you get the runaround. And at this particular stage of the game, nobody bothers to even address the situation.
So you've got a high-quality, high-definition picture of the moon showing what appears to be something as bright as the sun emanating from it or reflecting from something, and NASA won't say, well, yeah, this is interesting. I mean, they won't even comment that far?
Well, I believe that, they are strapped for cash. They're not getting a whole lot of public support. Every time you look at their budget, it continues to be dwindled down, and their technical people and scientists and educators are thrown on the streets. And so they're literally, when you look at these catalogs, tens of, not hundreds of thousands of pictures, this is sitting away in warehouses, and you don't find people going through that because they are too busy trying to maintain their jobs to work current projects. We kind of... we don't give them the support they need. We don't give them the finance they need, and we certainly don't promote NASA as a space program. And it would help, of course, if it was inclusive.
Now, you certify to me that this photograph is an unaltered NASA photograph, right?
Absolutely. Every photo in that book is included with the NASA serial numbers on there for the general public to order for themselves, just as we did.
All right. Well, you got me there. It's a pretty good anomaly, all right, and I'm just sorry you can't come up with any guesses about what it might be.
Well, my guess is exactly that. I consider that to be either a surface illumination or above the surface, but either way, it's not a natural phenomena, so that if it's not ours, then it has to be somebody else's.
Second photograph.
I'm looking at a photograph here.
Materials being moved from small crater and pouring into larger crater below?
That's correct. There are actually two shots of this. The one in the book is actually a much closer up. But if you look in this central crater here, the larger one that's at about 12 o'clock and halfway up the photo.
Got it.
And just above it is a little tiny one, and you see this material that is coming over the rim of the crater and bellowing into the bottom of it. Now, when you take that and look at the enlargement of the photo, it's much more concise.
I see it.
And
I'll be damned, I do see it, actually.
And there are areas on the moon where you can see terracing, very much that you see over the southwestern United States when you fly over and we're looking at our strip minings. They're terraced down. You see areas where material is moved, where rims...
Yeah, you can actually see something pouring out and collecting, in fact,
correct,
inside that crater.
Well, it tells you two
things. It's the
things.
damnedest thing.
First of all, something's conducting that activity, and secondly, in a vacuum, materials don't move concisely from one area to the next, so you have to have some type of atmospheric pressure to be the vehicle or the medium to hold the dust particles to carry them from one place to the next.
There is no atmosphere on the moon, right?
Well, that's not what they're said.
Well, not what who said?
Well, Well, that's not what's said at all. In fact, when you see some of the NASA photographs, you see a very thin layer, a very hazy layer in some areas of the moon, depending on what's susceptible to the Earth's gravitational pull and what's not at a particular time.
Is that debris just being held by the moon's gravity?
It can be held by the moon's gravity, but once you have lunar gravity, and then you have reports of water geysers, and you have reports of clouds, then you start to put together the...
Clouds? Now, wait. What reports of clouds?
Well, here, when we looked at this chronology of listings here, we're talking about mist moving over the floor of crater Chicard, obscuration of the floor of crater Plateau, and so on and so forth. So they're talking about atmospheric disturbance, of course, greatly reduced from what we're accustomed to here, but some atmospheric disturbance on the moon. On this particular article, they're talking about that Dr. John Freeman in 1971 said that instruments left on the moon detected moon geysers lasting for 14 hours.
Geysers, water.
Water clouds erupted through cracks on the lunar surface, and the clouds spread to cover an area of more than 10 square miles. Well, a cloud has to be supported by a medium. It cannot spread in a vacuum. So one step leads to the next.
Well, that's amazing. Are there photographs of these geysers?
That I don't know. There's a photograph in the book of a very large crater. I can't recall it off the top of my mind, but there are two orbits on this crater. On one orbit, the crater is approximately 50 miles in diameter, and you see that the northern edge is completely obscured, the rim, the floor, everything. On the next orbit, that entire area of mist and clouds has moved north of the crater, and now the entire crater that was originally obscured is completely free, and you can see the rim and the floor and everything.
God, I just wonder if I can see this because you have suggested it to me, and it is an odd formation of nature. But, I mean, it really does look like something's pouring into that crater, and I would challenge a lot of the audience to go up there and take a look themselves. It really, really, really looks that way. So you take a look yourself. Certainly what we're seeing here would not be consistent with anything that anybody figures ought to be going on the moon. The moon should be dead as a doornail. At least that's the conventional wisdom, is it not?
But it's not any longer. We're talking about lunar earthquakes, volcanoes, water geysers.
In a moment or two, I'm going, oh, yeah, I do see that. Now, I don't know that the light bulb is going on over this second picture, but it's pretty interesting. It could be something else, but when it is described as it has been described by Glenn, it's not hard to see. It's really not hard to see. I don't know if all this adds up to the immensity of there are alien bases on the moon or not yet. But then again, we're not done. We'll be right back. Okay, so you can follow along with these photographs. Glenn Steckling has them up on the coasttocoastam.com website, and you're welcome to follow along with us. Photograph 1 of the moon dark side, big glowing something there. Definitely intriguing. Photograph 2, something pouring from one crater to another crater. Also definitely intriguing. The third photograph is of one of our astronauts. So, Glenn, let's talk about that.
That's an Apollo 12 photograph, another Hasselblad high-quality photograph as well. And it shows an elliptical object staying within the frame, as you can see, elliptical bean-shaped luminescent object hanging over the astronaut's head, casting enough light and luminescence to completely light up the left side of the astronaut as we look at the frame.
It's true. It's blossomed out, bloomed out, I think they call it in photography. Mm-hmm. It's bloomed out. Now, why isn't that the sun we're talking about?
Well, when we look at the sun, we look at an area that, of course, is not shaped as a ellipse or a bean shape or saucer-shaped. We're looking at a complete planetary